Welcome back to the deep dive. I am so glad you're here with us today because honestly, we are about to wade into some murky, often painful, but incredibly important waters.
Hmm.
We are talking about a dynamic that I think almost everyone has encountered in some form or another. You've either lived it, you are currently in the thick of it, or you've watched a best friend absolutely disintegrate while going through it.
It is one of those universal experiences that paradoxically feels incredibly lonely and isolating when you're actually inside it.
Completely.
You feel like you're the only person in the world dealing with this specific kind of badness.
We're talking about navigating the confusing, fog-filled world of dating an emotionally unavailable partner. And the reason we're doing this deep dive is because of the disconnect. You know the
Uh-huh.
type I'm talking about. You meet someone who, on paper, is the total package. They're good looking, they're funny, they're smart, they have the cool job.
They check every single box. If you
Yeah,
were building a partner in a lab, this is what they would look like.
exactly. But then you hit the reality. You get the car home, it looks beautiful in the driveway, but when you turn the key, the engine doesn't start.
Nothing.
There is a complete inability to actually connect. So, our mission today is to decode the signs, understand the psychology, the actual why behind this behavior, and map out the trajectory of these relationships using some really intense real world documentation.
And we have a really robust stack of sources today to help us triangulate this.
Mhm.
We're looking at this as from three distinct perspectives to get, the full picture.
I love how we've got this structured.
First, we have the practical advice from Amy, the dating coach, who breaks down the red flags in this concept of love bombing that we hear so much about.
Which is such a buzzword, but we need to know what it actually means.
Totally. Then we have the clinician. We have a breakdown from Psychology Times by Asuda Ozer. This is going to give us the why. We're talking attachment theory, the psychology of avoidance, and what is actually happening in the brain and the emotional centers of these partners.
The science behind the heartache.
Pretty much. And finally, to keep us grounded in reality, we have the trenches. We've got raw, real-time documentation from a Reddit community, specifically our breakups.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
It is. We have a deeply detailed timeline from a user named MutedHughes10 and a whole chorus of supporting anecdotes from others who have lived through this exact nightmare.
I love that we have the Reddit perspective. The clinical stuff is great for understanding the mechanics, but the Reddit threads give us the visceral feeling of what it's actually like to wake up every day in one of these relationships.
It creates a complete picture. The
Yeah.
clinician tells you why it happens, the coach tells you what to look for, and the Reddit threads tell you how it feels.
So before we get into the signs, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. The central question that keeps coming up in these sources, and honestly, in every conversation I've ever had about this, is why do we often feel like we are the crazy ones in these relationships?
Mhm.
You start off cool, collected, rational, and 6 months later, you're crying on the bathroom floor, checking their last seen status, acting in ways you don't even recognize.
That feeling is actually a symptom of the dynamic itself. It's not a flaw in you, it's a feature of the relationship structure.
A feature, not a bug.
Exactly. And here is where it gets really interesting
Yeah.
and a bit paradoxical. We often assume emotionally unavailable people are cold or distant from day one. We think of the stoic cowboy or the ice queen. But the sources suggest the opposite.
This is the hook for me. This part is wild.
The people who seem the most available at the very start, the most intense, the most charming, the ones sending the most texts, are often the ones who are the least available in the end.
That is the love bomber paradox, and we are going to unpack that extensively. But let's start with part one, the diagnosis. Amy, the dating coach, lays out 8 specific signs. But before she gives us the list, she starts with a foundational definition.
Which is so important.
Yeah, we need to know what emotional availability actually looks like before we can spot the lack of it.
Right. It sounds simple, but it's actually quite specific. She defines emotional availability as being open to discussing feelings and desires, being vulnerable, and properly giving and receiving love.
It's a two-way street. It's not just about them being nice to you.
Exactly. It's not just about being nice or fun, it's about the exchange. And she puts the consequence of the opposite, emotional unavailability, pretty bluntly. She says, if you don't have that exchange, you are buying a one-way ticket to loneliness.
Wow, that hits hard because you are in a relationship visibly to the outside world, but internally you are emotionally single.
You're completely alone.
You are forced to figure everything out on your own.
Right. You are carrying the emotional load of two people with the resources of one.
Mm.
And that's just it's not sustainable.
Which leads us to sign number 1, poor communication skills. Now, we aren't just talking about someone who is a bit quiet or introverted, right? This is a key distinction.
No, and that is a crucial distinction. Thank you for making that. Being an introvert is a personality trait. Being emotionally unavailable is a relational pattern. Amy makes a point that their communication acts as a smokescreen.
A smokescreen. I like that imagery. It's like you're constantly trying to see through this fog they put up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Emotionally available people are clear. They tell you what makes them happy. They tell you what they need. If they're upset, they say, I am upset because of X. Unavailable people leave you with more questions than answers.
Oh, that feeling.
It's that feeling of constant ambiguity. You walk away from a conversation feeling less sure of where you stand than when you started. It's like emotional quicksand.
There was a connection to this on Reddit that really stood out to me. A user named VirtualCell7576 shared their story, and it made my blood boil a little bit because it was such a perfect example of this.
Okay.
They said their partner used to request that they not yell.
Which, on the surface, sounds like a reasonable request. Hey, let's keep it civil. Nobody wants to be yelled at.
Right, and the user admitted, I tend to be on the louder side, so I put in so much effort not to yell, I kept my voice low and calm. They really, really tried to accommodate this boundary.
So they were doing the work. They were trying to meet their partner's needs.
100%. But here's the kicker.
Yep.
The user said, as problems went on and I was met with jokes or silence, my voice got louder.
Of course it did.
I didn't want to yell. I wanted to be heard. And the partner would call them rude for raising their voice, completely ignoring the fact that the raising of the voice was a desperate reaction to being stonewalled.
That is a classic textbook example of how the lack of communication creates the crazy behavior in the other partner.
Yes, the crazy making.
You are screaming into a void. When you scream into a void, you naturally scream louder because you think, maybe they just didn't hear me. But then the partner turns around and blames you for the volume of your voice, rather than addressing the void they created.
It's gaslighting by omission. It's focusing on the reaction to the problem rather than the problem itself. They make your reaction the issue.
Precisely. They shift the focus. Suddenly the conversation is about your tone, not about their silence. And ideally, you want a partner who hears the whisper so you don't have to scream.
That's a great way to put it.
If you find yourself screaming constantly in a relationship, you have to ask, is it because I love screaming? Or is it because the person in front of me refuses to listen at any other volume?
That is a powerful question. Okay, let's move to sign number 2, which we touched on in the intro, the love bomber or moving too fast.
This is the trap.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous one. Amy points out that emotional, unavailable people aren't emotionless robots. Many are fun, outgoing, and the life of the party. They can be incredibly charismatic.
Oh yeah, they're not lurking in the shadows. They're often the most charming person in the room. And early on, they use that charm, that flattery and attention to draw in your heart.
It feels like a movie montage.
It does. They're texting you good morning. They are planning trips 6 months out. They are buying you flowers just because you feel like the most special person in the world.
But the source calls it a puff of smoke. As soon as they have you, as soon as the conquest is secure, as soon as the commitment is real, that intensity vanishes.
It's like a switch flips. And there was a Reddit user, the Relichthes, who described this perfectly. They said they had a lovely first year.
A whole year. That is a long con. That's what makes it so confusing.
A whole year. They said the partner soaked up every word. It felt palpable. It felt like a true mind meld. But the second things got tough, life happened. Stress happened. The partner would book it.
Wow.
They realized the partner only enjoyed their company when things were easy and fun.
That is the distinction between fair weather fun and emotional availability. Availability is about presence during the storm, not just the sunshine.
Right.
Anyone can be a great partner on a sunny Saturday afternoon at a vineyard. The question is, who are they on a rainy Tuesday when your car breaks down and you're crying?
And if they book it when the clouds roll in, they were never really there for you. They were there for the experience with you.
That's a great way to put it. They're a consumer of the experience, not a partner in the relationship.
Okay, sign number 3. Avoiding conflict. Now, nobody likes fighting. I hate conflict.
Most people do. It's stressful.
But Amy says healthy relationships need pushback. You have to be able to disagree and come out the other side.
Because conflict reveals who you really are.
Oh.
It reveals your values. It reveals your boundaries. The goal of the unavailable partner is to keep the status quo. If they avoid conflict, they avoid revealing their true self.
They don't want you to see behind the curtain.
Exactly. They don't want to get into the messy stuff because that requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is the thing they fear most.
This one. This one had the most heartbreaking example from the Reddit stack. A user named Fuck You All of You, which, by the way, incredible username for this topic.
I mean, it captures the sentiment perfectly.
It really does. She described a fight. She slammed a drawer, which she noted wasn't like her at all. She was shocked at her own behavior.
Again, there it is, acting out of character because of the dynamic.
She found herself sitting on the floor by the bed, sobbing, hyperventilating, just wanting comfort. She was in total distress.
And the partner.
He stood there, nonchalant, offering no comfort, just mumbling.
Wow, it's cold.
She said she felt so alone, desperately wishing she could call her mom or sister, but she couldn't because he didn't like her talking about their fights.
So there's an element of isolation, too, controlling the narrative.
Yes. But that image, seeing her on the floor, hyperventilating, and him standing above her, unmoved, that is the epitome of emotional unavailability.
It's an incapacity to empathize with the distress of the person you're supposed to love. Even if you are angry, even if you are in the middle of a fight, seeing your partner unable to breathe usually triggers a biological instinct to help.
A human instinct.
A human instinct. To stand there and mumble, that shows a profound, almost frightening disconnection.
It chills me to the bone. It really does. Sign number 4 is a bit more practical, but just as telling. Disrespecting time.
This sends a clear message. My time is more valuable than your time.
Right. It's the lateness, the canceling last minute, the flaking.
The I'll let you know text an hour before you're supposed to meet.
Ugh, the worst. The OP of the main Reddit thread we're following, Muted Hughes 10, mentioned their ex would flake on almost all plans or rearrange them to suit his schedule.
It's a power play, even if it's subconscious. It creates a dynamic where you are always on standby.
You can't make your own plans.
No. You become an accessory to their life, waiting for them to decide when you fit into the schedule. You stop making your own plans because you're hoping they might be free. That is a loss of autonomy. And it's a slow erosion of your own life.
Sign number 5, emotional abuse and treatment of others. Amy calls this the waiter test.
A classic. I think this should be taught in schools. Watch how they treat valets or servers. Are they condescending? Are they confronting a waiter over a wrong order in a really aggressive way? Do they fail to tip?
Why is that so predictive? What's the psychology there?
Because control issues often manifest in these small, low-stakes interactions first. When the stakes are low interaction with a stranger they'll never see again, their mask slips. It's a peek into their default empathy settings.
So if their empathy is set to low for a stranger,
It's a warning. If they can't show basic empathy to someone serving them food, they eventually won't show it to you when you stop serving their needs. It reveals a transactional view of people.
that's really insightful. Okay, sign number 6, imbalance, or what Amy calls the lion's share.
It's a simple math problem.
Yeah.
If you were putting in the majority of the time, the money, the emotional energy, it is the them problem.
And it's not always 50-50, right? Life happens.
Of course not. Relationships ebb and flow, sure. Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes 40-60. But if the average is 90-10, that is not a partnership.
What is it then?
It's a mentorship or a parenting role or a life coaching service that you're not getting paid for.
We had a Reddit user, RealFrosting2637, who wrote assignments, gave gifts, and did projects for a partner who verbally abused her. She was literally doing his homework.
She was over-functioning to compensate for his under-functioning. It's a common pattern. One person does more and more to try and make the relationship work, not realizing they're the only one working.
And all while he was actively dismantling her self-esteem. That's a brutal combination.
That imbalance is sustainable only for so long before burnout sets in. You simply cannot carry another adult human being through life forever. Your own back will break.
Sign number 7, lack of intimacy. And Amy makes a point here. It's not just physical, it's the deficiency in the connection that separates a relationship from a friendship.
Right. It's the emotional closeness, the shared vulnerability. But the physical can be a tell, and not always in the way you'd think.
What do you mean?
There was a Reddit user, Godspeed Harmonica, who noted a really strange disconnect. Their partner initiated sex on the first date, so the physical drive was there, they were ready to go.
Okay, fast mover.
But it took 3 months to hold hands.
Yeah.
And she was uncomfortable with eye contact.
That is fascinating. So the sex was fine, but the simple, tender stuff was off limits.
Exactly. And the theory is that sex can be a performance. It can be a release. It doesn't necessarily require emotional input. You can detach during it.
You can just be physically present.
Right. But holding hands, eye contact, That requires vulnerability. That requires being seen. An emotionally unavailable person might be fine with the act of sex because they can control it, but the simple, quiet intimacy of holding hands feels dangerous. It's too real.
And finally, sign number 8, lack of accountability.
The victim mentality. This one is huge, blaming others for bad things in their life rather than owning their shit, as the source puts it.
It's always someone else's fault. Their boss, their ex, their parents.
Never them. And Amy puts it perfectly. If they don't accept their choices, they won't accept you as a choice.
Say more about that. That's a powerful line.
Accountability is the bedrock of trust. If they can't say I was wrong, or I made a mistake, or I hurt you and I'm sorry, you can never build a secure foundation. You will always be the one apologizing to keep the peace, even when you did nothing wrong. You end up taking accountability for their actions just to move on.
And you can't be a true choice for them if they don't believe they have agency over their own life.
Exactly. You're just another thing that's happening to them, not someone they're actively choosing every day.
So we have the signs. And if you are listening and ticking these off like a grocery list, first of all, take a breath. It's heavy stuff. But now we need to pivot. We need to understand why. Why are they like this? Is it malice? Is it brokenness? Is it intentional?
This is where we turn to the Psychology Times and the clinical perspective. Asud Ozer defines emotional unavailability not as a lack of care necessarily, but as an emotional pattern. It's a consistent inability or unwillingness to connect deeply. It's a defense mechanism.
And this leads us to attachment theory, which we hear about a lot.
We do, and for good reason. The article references research that links this behavior to insecure, specifically avoidant attachment. These are people who have a fundamental discomfort with intimacy. It literally feels unsafe to them on a nervous system level.
And where does that come from? The origin story. It has to start somewhere.
Usually childhood. It almost always traces back. They were often raised by parents who were not emotionally sensitive. Maybe the parents were cold or neglectful. Or on the other end of the spectrum, maybe they were intrusive and smothering.
So either too little or too much.
Right. Either way, the child learned a lesson. Emotions are not safe. Expressing needs leads to pain or rejection or being controlled.
They were taught to conceal emotional demands, to be the good kid who doesn't cause any trouble.
Exactly. They learned that to survive, they had to be strong and independent. They learned self-reliance as a defense mechanism. So when they become an adult, that mechanism is still running the show.
So withdrawing isn't just them being a jerk. It's a survival tactic that they learned when they were 5 years old.
Precisely. To them, intimacy feels strange, unfamiliar, or even dangerous. When you try to get close, their internal alarm bells ring. They don't see a warm embrace. They see a threat to their autonomy. They see engulfment. Their brain is screaming, danger, retreat.
That explains the cycle of distress mentioned in the source.
Yes, it's a tragic dance. It plays out in almost every one of these relationships. The anxious partner, who is, by the way, usually the one attracted to the avoidant because it's a familiar pattern, seeks support. They want closeness. They lean in.
And the avoidant partner perceives that lean as a threat.
A huge threat. So they withdraw. They pull back to regain their sense of safety and space.
Which, of course, makes the anxious partner more anxious.
Right. The anxious partner thinks, why are you pulling away? What did I do wrong? So they pursue harder. They text more. They call more. They ask, are we okay? More.
And what does that do to the avoidant?
It causes the avoidant partner to pull back even further or shut down completely because now the threat level has increased exponentially. It creates this vicious spiral of emotional loneliness and anger.
This connects perfectly to our Reddit case study, Meter Hughes 10. They describe the honeymoon period, followed by the first request for connection.
The blip in the bliss, as they called it.
As soon as they asked for something real, for a deeper level of commitment or emotional support, the partner shut down. The cycle began right there.
And it just spins faster and faster until the whole thing flies apart.
So the big question everyone asks, the one you probably have in your mind right now, and the Psychology Times addresses this. Can they change? Can we fix them with our love?
The expert take, based on the research, is yes. But, and this is a huge, bold, underlined but, only with awareness and intentional work on their part.
So it's not on us.
It is 100% not on you. We are talking therapy. We are talking emotionally focused therapy, EFT, somatic approaches to literally retrain the nervous system to understand that intimacy is safe. It's a massive undertaking for them.
And the hard truth the expert gives us.
You cannot inspire someone into availability. You cannot love them enough to fix this. It is about their readiness, not your worth.
I think we need to repeat that. It's about their readiness, not your worth.
Absolutely. You can be the most perfect, patient, loving partner in the world, and it won't unlock them if they aren't willing to do the hard, scary work of looking inward.
Mewtwo's 10 found this out the hard way. They tried what they called ineffective conflict management best practices.
Trying to therapy the partner. So many of us have been there.
Totally. And they realized that even when the partner said they would do the work, even when they agreed to the changes, boundaries were crossed days later. The behavior didn't change.
Because words are easy. I'll do better is easy to say. Changing a lifelong survival mechanism that helped you survive your childhood, that is incredibly, profoundly hard work. They have to choose it for themselves.
Okay, let's unpack this anatomy of a relationship. Mewtwo's 10 on Reddit provided this incredibly detailed timeline that I think serves as a perfect case study. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. It maps out the stages of these relationships so clearly.
It really does. It's almost a script. And if you're listening and this sounds familiar, just know you're not alone.
So phase 1 is the setup. The partner is on best behavior. This is the love bombing stage. A blip in the bliss happens. Maybe they flake once or say something weird, but you ignore it.
That's the halo effect. You excuse the red flag because everything else looks so green. You think, oh, they're just having a bad day or they didn't mean it like that. You make excuses for them.
Phase 2, the effort. You see the problems and you try to work through them. And here is the tricky part. The partner opens up just enough. We call it breadcrumbing.
Breadcrumbing. It's intermittent reinforcement. In psychology, this is the most addictive kind of reward schedule. If a slot machine never paid out, you'd walk away. If it paid out every time, you'd get bored.
Right.
But if it pays out sometimes, unpredictably, you stay hooked, pulling that lever, hoping for the next little win. They give you just enough vulnerability, just enough of a glimpse of the person you fell for to make you think, okay, we're getting somewhere. Change is possible.
It keeps the hope alive. But then comes phase 3, the erosion. You stop having difficult conversations to avoid their defensiveness or their shutting down.
Oh, this is a dangerous phase.
Insecurities grow. You start anticipating doom. Mewtwo mentioned hesitating to buy concert tickets for a show 3 months away because they genuinely didn't know if they'd still be together.
That is a terrible way to live. That is a state of chronic, low-grade anxiety. You are walking on eggshells, constantly trying to manage their emotions by suppressing your own needs. Your world gets smaller and smaller.
Then we hit phase 4, the crazy making. This is the stonewall. You finally break. You react intensely, crying, texting furiously. And the partner, they ask for peace.
This is where the gaslighting hits peak levels, whether it's intentional or not. By reacting emotionally to their lack of emotion, you become the problem. They get to be the calm, rational one, and you look unstable.
They look at you crying and say, whoa, why are you so emotional? Or, I can't talk to you when you're like this.
Exactly. Ignoring the fact that their behavior is what drove you to that point. They created the fire and are now blaming you for screaming about the smoke.
It makes you question your self-worth. You feel like you're losing yourself. Who is this person who cries all the time? It's not you.
And that leads to phase 5, the false dawn. You hit a breaking point, but you decide to try one last time. You work on yourself. You meditate. You exercise. You read the self-help books. You set a clear, calm boundary.
And the partner agrees. They say, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm in it for the long haul, I understand.
And you feel this massive wave of relief. Hope floods back in. You think, finally, we've turned a corner.
But then, phase 6, the end. Days later, maybe a week, they cross the exact boundary you just set, and you realize finally that nothing will ever change, and you have to leave.
And this brings us to the blindside phenomenon. This is so key. Mewtwo 10 noted that the avoidant partner was shocked when they finally left.
Yeah, the partner was like, what? Why? I thought we were fine, despite having the same discussion 100 times. How is that possible?
The interpretation here is profound. Mewtwo realized they were blindsided because they never had the capacity to process or understand the emotional needs in the first place. The conversations were happening, but the information wasn't landing.
It's like they were speaking different languages.
Precisely. It wasn't malice. It was a lack of capacity.
Oh.
They heard the words, but couldn't compute the emotional weight behind them. So when you leave, they are genuinely confused because in their reality, things weren't that bad.
It's the difference between potential and reality. You fell in love with their potential, who they could be if they just opened up, but you broke up with their reality.
And that realization is the key to moving on. You have to mourn the potential so you can accept the reality of who they actually are. right now.
We have some horror stories from the trenches that really illustrate these points. One that stuck with me was The Secret Girlfriend, user Real Frosting 2637.
This one was heavy. 3 years. 3 years of being a secret,
I can't even get my head around that.
acting like friends in public, lovers in private. Can you imagine the psychological toll? Hiding your love, constantly feeling like you're not good enough to be acknowledged.
And at the end, after 3 years of giving gifts, doing his projects, being there, he asks to be friends with benefits.
It's the ultimate insult. It shows a complete lack of regard for the other person's humanity. It reduces them to a utility, a device for pleasure or comfort, not a person with feelings.
And her big takeaway was the regret. The regret over how much was given versus how little was received.
A lesson learned in the most painful way possible.
Then there was the mysterious excuse. A Reddit user's ex claimed he enjoys being mysterious as an excuse for unavailability.
I rolled my eyes when I read that. I mean, come on. Mysterious is often just a code word for I'm not going to let you in and I'm going to try to make it sound cool.
It sounds romantic in a movie.
In a real relationship, it's just lonely. Mystery gets old very fast when you need to know if they'll be there for you when your mom is sick.
And finally, the green flags that weren't. User Working Flamingo 3675. The partner claimed to hate liars and preferred talking about issues in person.
That sounded great on paper. Wow, someone who values honesty and direct communication.
In the reality, disappeared for days, lied about his whereabouts, and then broke up with her over the phone.
The takeaway there, words mean nothing without consistency. Absolutely nothing. You have to look at the actions. If the audio doesn't match the video, trust the video every single time.
So we have the diagnosis, the psychology, the case study. It's a lot. Now let's talk about recovery. How do you get over this? Because Muted Hughes 10 points out something important. The withdrawal is scientific.
It is. This is not just missing someone. The desire to go back is hormonally similar to an addict going through withdrawal. Your brain is screaming for a fix.
That is wild, and it explains why it's so hard to stay away.
Dopamine and oxytocin are powerful chemicals. During the breadcrumbing phase, your brain got hooked on that intermittent reward. Now that the supply is cut off, your head knows this person is bad for you. That's the logic. But your body wants the fix. That's the chemistry.
So it's logic versus chemistry. And in the early days of a breakup, chemistry usually has a much louder voice.
That's why you have to treat it like an addiction. You have to go cold turkey. You have to block them. You have to understand that the craving isn't love. It's withdrawal. You aren't missing them. You are missing the chemical hit they provided.
And you have to fight the sunk cost fallacy. Can you explain that?
It's an economic concept applied to love. You think, we've been together so long, I can't give up now. Or I've invested 3 years of my life in this.
I can't start over.
Right. But the source advice is clear. Stop investing in a lost cause. You don't keep pouring money into a failing stock just because you bought it 5 years ago. You cut your losses and reinvest your resources, your time, your love, your energy, somewhere that will give you a return.
Muted Hughes 10 gave some really actionable steps for healing. First, calendar clearing.
I love this. It's so practical. Schedule time to cry. Literally put it in the calendar.
Yep.
7 p.m. to 8 p.m., listen to sad songs and sob uncontrollably.
It sounds funny, but it's about processing rather than repressing. It gives the grief a container.
Right. If you bottle it up, it will explode later at an inconvenient time, like in the middle of a work meeting. Give yourself permission to grieve on a schedule.
And then the to-do list. Do the things the partner didn't want to do. Cooking specific ingredients they hated, arranging books your way, watching the movies they'd never watch with you.
That is about reclaiming your space and your identity. It's reminding yourself that you exist outside of that relationship. You have likes, dislikes, and preferences that are valid and that you don't have to suppress anymore. It's a way of coming home to yourself.
Amy, the dating coach, offers a shift in perspective that I found really beautiful. She says a breakup is not a failure, it is a redirection.
I love that. It reframes the whole experience. It's not an end. It's space opening up to reflect on your values. It's about rebuilding into something beautiful, a version of you that won't settle for crumbs anymore.
And the Psychology Times adds a layer of compassion, which I think is important. You can have compassion for their trauma without abandoning yourself.
That is the ultimate balance. This is crucial for the empaths listening. You can understand that they are avoidant because of their childhood. You can understand their parents failed them. You can wish them well from a distance.
But you can still leave.
But you can still leave. As the source says, you can love someone and still leave. You have to choose you.
Because real love is built on emotional presence, not
At
absence.
the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to.
Okay, let's recap the key takeaways here, the things to really hold on to.
I'd say number one is consistency over potential. Always. Trust actions over words every single time. And recognize that the intense love bombing phase can actually be a warning sign if it's not backed by real depth and consistency over time.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought from Reddit user Pixie Donchi. They talked about the danger of the tiny part of niceness that reels you back in.
It's the crumbs, the intermittent reinforcement we talked about.
Exactly. It's that one good day in a month of bad ones. And here's the challenge to you listening right now, if any of this resonated. Are you staying in your situation because of who the person is right now, today, or because of who you hope they will become?
That's a powerful question. And be honest with yourself. If they never change from this exact moment, if this version of them is the only version you will ever get, would you still stay?
That is the question. Sit with that.
It might save you years of your life.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. This was a heavy one.
It was. Take care of yourselves out there.
See you next time.